case. Take a look at that. You like that? He's got that in the case there. Good celebration.
Beautiful.
But it does bring us to our next conversation. Has Jalen made his case to solidify himself as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL? It would seem the obvious answer is yes. Cam Newton likes to say things that aren't obvious. Here's what he said on his podcast.
It's hard for me to grade Jalen Hurts with the metrics that with the talent that he has around him. Hurts does not have to play elite for the Philadelphia Eagles to win. We're not asking you to win the game. We're just asking you not to lose it. But when you ask that question, are we winning because of you, solely because of you? Or is it the resources around you? So game changer, game manager, those are the things that you have to ask yourself. And those are the metrics that I'm going off of.
Okay, so here we are again with this. We did this last offseason with Cam, and we're doing it again. Do you feel though that response is disrespectful to Jalen Hurts?
We have to stop allowing people to have excuses to disrespect Jalen Hurts. Cam recently said I was playing things safe, so let me cook for a second here, right? So there's different ways to look at it. Historically and presently, Jalen Hurts is the top 10 quarterback, and you're going to look at it different ways. You're going to look at talents above X's and O's, the ability to help your team win, and then to me, it's proximity to the GOAT. Let's take Cam Newton, right? What made Cam Newton great? He could be powerful in short yardage and goal line. He could extend plays with his legs. He was this big physical presence. So is Jalen Hurts, right? Cam Newton went to the playoffs 4 times. Jalen Hurts been to the playoffs 4 times already. Cam Newton went to 3 Pro Bowls. Jalen Hurts already been to 2. Cam Newton was an MVP, and he got to the Super Bowl, and he forgot to bring his cape. When Jalen Hurts is going to the Super Bowl, he's brought his cape, and he's also brought the Avengers with him, who are not even in DC. They in Marvel, right? And so now let's think about this. Okay, let's go to winning. Eli Manning is going to be a Hall of Famer. Why is Eli Manning going to be a Hall of Famer? Because he had 2 epic runs to the Super Bowl. And in those Super Bowls, he played great. And he beat the GOAT, not only of that time, but the GOAT of the era, right? But he's only been to 4 Pro Bowls. He never got an MVP vote. He was never an All-Pro. Jalen Hurts has done all of those things. Right now let's look at Jalen Hurts in this time. In the Super Bowl, how do we measure every quarterback in the AFC? What is your proximity to Patrick Mahomes? You know the 3 quarterbacks that beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? I know who they are. They're Joe Burrow, they're Tom Brady, and they're Jalen Hurts. And not only did Jalen Hurts beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, he outplayed him in the Super Bowl. And so now, here is what I think. If you don't want to count Jalen Hurts in your top 10, I have one question. Who's in the top 10? And how do you get there? And the last thing is this, right? Cam Newton is using excuses to not put Jalen Hurts in the top 10. Excuses are tools of incompetence that build monuments of nothingness, and those who major in their usage are non-achievers. The ring that Jalen Hurts is walking around with says top 10 to me. Tell Cam to show you his.
Wow. I love the quote, so make sure that you get me that.
I got to break that one down when I get to
Second, no, here's the thing. I think I agree with almost everything you're saying. Well, I think I agree in principle with everything you're saying. The one thing that we do sometimes do, and maybe I'm guilty of this as well, is say, if you take that quarterback out and plug another one into that situation, wouldn't he also be really good? Wouldn't they also look really good? They have 2 of everything, as we joked last year in Philadelphia. That is not. It's not fair to hold that against Jalen Hurts. He is on the team that he is on. He's been there as they've built this thing. That's the only way I could see trying to question him at all, is to say a lot of quarterbacks might look really good with all that around him.
Yeah, there's another very fundamental reason to really like and admire Jalen Hurts. Everything RC said I agree with, but more fundamentally than that, we always say coming out of the draft, the Tate sets the floor, character sets the ceiling. This was a guy that was fired in college. He had a transfer. He was a bottom of the 2nd round pick. I thought he was a 3rd rounder. He was fundamentally inaccurate. His first year in the NFL, he completed 52%. Last year, he was 68%, and he led the NFL in completions above expectations. When you make a weakness a strength and combine it with everything else that RC talked about, the physicality in the run game, you have a superstar. And when you talk about the Super Bowl, he outplayed Mahomes twice. They are 1-1. I don't know what else he would have to do not to be considered even a top 5 quarterback. We could talk about the consistency of the Philadelphia passing game early on, but we talked about Kansas City. They may take a little time to get going. So when you look at any objective criteria and skill development, how can you not root for this guy and give him what he's earned, which is he is a Super Bowl winner on a great team who makes everybody around him better?
What you want out of your quarterback is you want someone who can make the play when you need it most.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts playing his best in big games means something. That's all we want all these quarterbacks to do every single year we come on these shows. And also, to your point, Mike T, this is a guy you root for, and it doesn't matter if you root for him, but he gets better year after year. Every year we've seen him. Criticism is only fair as if you adjust it whenever you get more information. And when you look at Jalen Hurts, he's played in 2 Super Bowls. There's only been 21 other quarterbacks in NFL history that have started and played in 2 Super Bowls, and 17 of them will be in the Hall of Fame, and Russell Wilson will be a debate of whether or not he gets in or not. That means something so early in Jalen Hurts' career.
The only thing about, I don't want to be on the other side of this because I don't want to be in the position of downgrading what Jalen Hurts has done because I think he's been terrific. And obviously, he was brilliant in last year's playoffs. But I do think there were questions about if we're ranking him amongst the top players at his position right now. Certainly, there's a small handful of guys you would take ahead of him immediately, right? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, et cetera.
The AFC 4.
And then but you keep going. Like, would you take the kid in Washington right now ahead of him? If you're starting a team right now?
If you're starting a team right now, yes.
Which of those 2 guys would you take?
But that was the 5 when you look at what the executives and the coaches said. Those were the top 5. It was the 4 guys in the AFC and then Jayden Daniels.
Right.
And Jayden Daniels being younger, Jayden Daniels bringing a team to the NFC Championship after picking 2nd overall. That matters. I get that. But there's also guys like Justin Herbert. Just tell me why. Right? Is it the tantalizing talent? Is it the fact that he has the big arm, that he's 6'6"? I also watched him be up 27-0 and lose a game in Jacksonville. Right? To a team that absolutely tanked afterwards. And so I understand that there are going to be different reasons why people choose to put someone in their top 10. In my top 10, you have to go win. In my top 10, you have to continue to get better. In my top 10, you have to show up when your team needs you most, and he's done that.
The same way we're delineating between game changer and game manager, there should be a difference between a talented quarterback and a good quarterback. A talented quarterback is what you're born with and the tools. That's a different discussion than what you do, how close you get to the best you can be, and that's what Jalen Hurts is at the top of the
But I have to leave this here for the moment, but we are circling. We're coming back to this, Eric, no matter what else we had planned. We're coming back to this because I think there's a lot more to be said. Meanwhile, college football.
Kelsey will be huge in the red zone. I love what Patrick Mahomes has from a protection standpoint as compared to last year. I expect more.
That feels like a low number. Mike T, let's talk about Kelsey. His total is 650.5 receiving yards. You going more or less?
Less, significantly less. That's quantitative, but qualitative, he will be immensely important. Touchdowns, 3rd down, but I think what RC relates to the explosiveness of Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, when Rashee Rice gets back from suspension, that's where the ball is going to go most of the time. He'll be impactful, just not a lot of volume.
And how about the winning Hawk? The Chiefs' total is 11.5 wins this year. We go more or less?
I'm going more. I mean, everyone's talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs weren't as good as they were last year, and they won 15 games. I don't get how the drop-off is supposed to be this loud. I actually think they're a better football team in the 2025 season than they were in the 24 season.
They're a better team this year than they were last year. Mike T, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. If the 2025 Chiefs play the 2024 Chiefs, they beat them by at least 10 points. I love when you turn a weakness into a strength. Josh Simmons to be best tackle in the game in the draft if he was healthy. Kingsley Sumateo, who was supposed to be left tackle, move him inside. Get Jalen Brown, who could be very versatile for them. Now all of a sudden, you give Patrick Mahomes time with those receivers, guys. Last year, they were 30th in the league in air yards per attempt. He was getting rid of the ball fast. Like, they're going to be really, really good this year.
It is worth pointing out because sometimes the world moves so fast, but things seem to happen slowly. Last season feels like a lifetime ago. The Chiefs